Hello, everyone, and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. So, I'm back for the penultimate, yes, that's a big word,
Show off.
Have Your Say video, and this is for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 17, Episode 15. So today we're going to be going through the episode, talking about the results of the Have Your Say poll, where you get to vote at home whether you agree with the outcome of the episode or not.
Oh, please, not this again.
And we'll be talking about a little bit of light drama to do with Suzie Toot addressing the comments that Trinity The Tuck made about her, and also Suzie addressing the feud that she had with Lexi Love. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Also, I'd just like to quickly thank this person who left this lovely DM for me on TikTok. I did also post this on my channel, but I think this is just an amazing reminder that this channel is obviously only for heterosexual males like myself, raging heterosexuals. I don't have any of that gay stuff on this channel.
Hi, gay!
This may shock you to hear, but I in the past have been accused of being gay. I know, just because I like a little bit of Kylie Minogue, Broadway, indoor plants, and sleeping with men, people think that I am gay. Me? Please. So this is just a reminder that this channel is for the straights and the straights only, like this person in this DM, because they clearly are not a closet case and are definitely a raging heterosexual.
Sure, Jan.
Please make sure you hit subscribe for more of this amazing straight heterosexual content. Okay, so let's go on to the episode. And this episode is obviously a little bit different today because it's not a regular episode necessarily. It's a lip sync Lollapalooza for the eliminated queens. So we have had lip sync Lollapaloozas in the past. Last season on season 16, we did have one, but it was actually with a live audience, which I actually feel is kind of better. I was wondering if that was going to happen this episode, but it didn't. It was just a kind of regular episode with just the judges on set. The thing that to me was the most interesting, though, was it's been somewhat confirmed that this episode was filmed a couple of weeks ago, so quite recently, which was many, many months, probably about 8 months after this season was finished. And I think you can kind of tell this was filmed after a little bit of a gap because maybe some of the queens look a little bit different. They're giving a kind of an all-stars glow up, you know, when they come in and they look very different. Some queens, I think, if you compare their before and afters on their confessionals, look very different. So that was kind of interesting to me because I don't think they've necessarily done this on Drag Race before where they almost openly admit and acknowledge that there's been quite a passage of time between the two things because they talked about things that have happened since the season, like, for example, Kori's cameos and things like that. The only other kind of important thing that happens in the workroom is that Arrietty apologizes for her mirror message to Anya. And I'm sure they probably have spoken about this since then because, I mean, they were at Roscoe's together. So I assume they'd already hashed this sort of stuff out. But I thought it was important for that conversation to be on camera. So hopefully that can kind of put that to rest now and people can stop hating on Arrietty, regardless of how you feel about her. It's really not okay to be sending like death threats and things, which is what I have seen on social media. Okay, so let's actually get on to the lip syncs themselves, because obviously that is the main part of the episode. So there is a slight twist. We find out that normally what happens is the queen whose ball gets chosen from the hopper, is that what it's called? The spinny thing? They usually get to decide who their opponent is, and then the opponent gets to choose the song. However, this time it's a little bit different because the person whose ball gets chosen gets to decide whether they want to pick their opponent or the song. Personally, if it was me, I think I would go pick the song because I think I would more likely want to know, okay, definitely I can perform this song. This is within my wheelhouse and things. I guess if I wanted to make good television, I would pick my opponent because it's always funny to be like, I think you suck and I'm going to choose you. But because of this, I decided in the Have Your Say poll to ask for question 1, would you rather pick your opponent or the lip sync song? And 86.1% voted they would choose the lip sync song and only 13.9% would choose the opponent. Also, as usual, there are a range of songs and they sort of put them up on screen. So I asked you at home, which of the lip sync song choices would you pick as like your first choice? So it was quite a range of results looking at them. And the one that came number 1 was You Make Me Feel with 19.3%. Then it was We Found Love with 15.6%, and then Training Season was only just a little bit behind with 15.4%. I would also choose Training Season by Dua Lipa or Dula Peep. Some of you may know I did actually see her quite recently here in Melbourne. I also do like a little bit of the Peeps, so I would have chosen that song because it was the one song I probably did know the lyrics to already without having to even memorize them. So the queen whose ball gets chosen first is Hormona Lisa. She chooses to pick the song and she chooses Say Liza, Liza with a Z by Liza Minnelli. And then the second queen who gets chosen by the ball is Lydia B. Collins. I did enjoy this lip sync. I think it was a fun choice, and I'm glad there was one with a little bit of spoken word in it because it kind of reminded me of All Stars 7 when they did the spoken word. Because I think spoken word can actually be harder than a lip sync because there's a lot of words to memorize. I do think, as they kind of alluded to in the episode, and some of the queens said, I do think Hormona maybe did the reveals way too soon. It kind of did look like she was undressing when she got home. I think she should have saved the reveals for a little bit later. But I do think overall Lydia did better regardless of whether Hormona did the reveals too soon. I think Lydia just encapsulated it more. She gave good face or head, you can choose. So I do think in general Lydia won the lip sync regardless of whether Hormona lost it because of the reveals. And Lydia is announced as the winner of the lip sync, so she moves on to the next round. And I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, who do you think won between Hormona and Lydia? And you voted 97.1% for Lydia and 2.9% for Hormona. Okay, so the next queen whose ball gets chosen is Suzie Toot. And controversially, but interestingly, she chooses to pick her opponent and she picks Joella. Joella then picks my favourite song, which is Training Season by Dua Lipa. I really enjoyed this lip sync. It was two very different styles. I wasn't quite sure how Suzie was going to deal with this sort of song because it's maybe not the type of song you would imagine she would do normally. But I thought Suzie absolutely killed it. She looked so good. Like, I was turning from gay to straight to lesbian for Suzie. That kind of, was it Rosie the Riveter style with the bandana and everything? And the way she was just looking dead at the judges, she had this kind of sultry expression, like the come to bed eyes. And I was like, I would come to her bedroom. She looked amazing. She really encapsulated the song. She knew every word. She was really just living the song through the camera directly at you and at RuPaul. So I just thought Suzie absolutely smashed this. So I would definitely say she won. And perhaps unsurprisingly, Suzie is announced as the winner and moves on to the next round. And in the Have Your Say poll, I asked who you thought won between Suzie and Joella, and you voted 97% for Suzie and 3% for Joella. Okay, so the next queen whose ball gets chosen is Lucky Stars. And she chooses her song, which is Step by Step by Whitney Houston. And the queen who gets chosen to be her opponent is Acacia Forgot. I think this was definitely the first of the lip syncs we'd seen up till this point where I was very kind of not sure at the beginning who was actually going to take it. I really did love Lucky with the balls, like the big balloon balls for boobs. That was a really fun gag. I think it was kind of an obvious gag, but you know, it worked. Also, the bit where she was doing the, I think it's called duck walking or something like that on the ground, and she was sort of bouncing the big boobs around. It was definitely giving me Nina Bonina Brown vibes when she lip synced on season 9 against Aja, I believe it was, because they're both really good lip syncers. And I believe Lucky was Nina's drag daughter, although I think they're sort of slightly estranged now. But I think you could see the similarity between them in the style. I will say though, I do think Acacia put up a really good fight. I really loved the bit where Acacia was doing the kind of the slow dip down, sort of tilting backwards. I thought that really leaned into the comedy of it. And you could tell the queens at the back were living for it because they kept cheering and everything. And I think I almost thought Acacia was going to win because of that. But I do think Lucky maybe took it because I was looking at sort of like the big bouncing boobs a bit more because I'm a straight male. As I said earlier, I do love good boobs.
Yeah, sure you are.
So maybe that's what it was that took it for me. So I do think I'd have to say that Lucky did take this lip sync. And Lucky is announced as the winner of the lip sync. Interestingly, in the Have Your Say poll, it was actually kind of split. So almost 60%, 59.9% voted for Lucky as the winner, but 40.1% voted for Acacia. So it was actually pretty close. Okay, so the next queen whose ball gets chosen is Arrietty. She chooses to have the lip sync song, and she chooses Blow Me One Last Kiss by Pink.
Love Pink.
And then Kori's name is pulled as her opponent. This might be a little bit controversial.
Oh, here we go again.
But this was maybe the one lip sync where I think I actually disagreed with the outcome that the judges did. I actually think that maybe Arrietty won this lip sync.
How could he say that?
I will say, they did mention this at Roscoe's, and I felt this as well. I thought Arrietty's outfit was just not the right color. It was black, so it was just too dark on that new stage, which is very dark, and it kind of just swallows up all of those dark colors. But her reveal, where she pulled the shoulder pads off and they were kind of tassels, I thought that was a really cool reveal that we've not really seen before on Drag Race. It wasn't just having a coat, taking off the coat. It was something a bit different that I don't think other people were expecting. Unfortunately, I think because of the color though, if it had been a different color, not black, it probably would have stood out a bit more. But I actually thought Arrietty did a really good job, given that she's maybe not known for being the best lip syncer from what we've seen. I think she actually did a really good job. I was kind of expecting Kori to do a little bit more. I thought Kori still did well, but maybe just not quite as much as I thought she was going to. Maybe she was kind of saving some juice in the tank, so to speak, for later. So I controversially would have to disagree and say that I thought Arrietty won this. But Kori is actually announced as the winner of the lip sync. Interestingly, this was actually quite split in the Have Your Say poll as well. So Kori did come out on top with 55.9%, but Arrietty got 44.1%, so it was actually really close. Okay, so moving on to the final lip sync of round one, which was between Lana and Crystal to the song You Make Me Feel Mighty Real by Sylvester. Now, first of all, what I will say is this song I immediately remembered was already on Drag Race. It was, I believe, season 8 between Bob the Drag Queen and Derek Barry. And I know there's only so many songs you can choose from, and there are some great songs. This is a great song for lip syncing. But I think the problem can be that you then start to compare lip syncs because obviously it's the same song. And I do think that Bob versus Derek was probably a better version of this lip sync song rather than this one. But anyway, let's get back to season 17. I thought they both did a really good job. I was really excited to see Crystal again because I always felt like she was eliminated a bit too early on season 17. I did really enjoy this lip sync. They both did a really good job. Crystal was very energetic. She was doing her reveals. I liked the bit where Lana's hat kind of accidentally hit Crystal, but she managed to sort of push it away. I thought that was kind of funny. However, I do think Lana took it for me kind of near the end when she straddled Crystal. We all love a good straddle. And it was actually really funny. And the way they were kind of bouncing off each other, I think that did make Lana stand out a bit more. So I would have to agree that Lana won. And Lana was also announced as the winner of the lip sync. Again, in the Have Your Say poll, this was actually a bit more split than I thought it might be. So Lana got 69.1% and Crystal got 30.9%. Okay, so moving on to the first lip sync of round two, which is obviously the people who won round one. And the first lip sync was Suzie versus Lucky to the song We Found Love by Rihanna. Now, this is a great song. This was maybe one of the others I definitely would have chosen because I know this song. I've been around for, a few years now. And I remember dancing to this in the clubs when I was at uni. So I love this song so much. It just brings back lots of memories. Maybe the memories are a little hazy because we may have imbibed certain liquids. Oh, that sounds dodgy. I meant alcohol. I thought this was a fine lip sync. Maybe not quite as good as some of the others, but it was fine. Suzie was doing the same kind of being very sensual, giving good head or face rather. And I think for me, the thing that really clinched it was that Lucky kind of was relying on the basketball boobs again. I don't know why she did that. I did mention this actually when I was a guest this week on the Pressed Conference podcast, which I'll link to in the description. Nice little plug there. I'm in my charitable era at the moment, going on these little tiny podcasts and helping them out. No, I actually loved the Press Conference podcast with Amanda and Nero. Amanda's actually given me quite a bit of tea, which I've used in my videos before. So you may remember that I have mentioned them before. So it was actually a really fun podcast. You should go and check it out. And I mentioned this on the Press Conference podcast, but for me with Lucky, if it was me, I would have put the basketball boobs on Velcro and I would have disattached them and then put them on my butt instead and had some Velcro on my butt. And then I would have turned around and twerked with them or done something. Because once you've seen the big boobs, you've kind of seen it. And it was a bit like, okay, well, we've seen this. So you've got to think about how else you could have done it. Even if she had just got a knife or something and sort of burst the balloons, that would have also been fun. But you've got to do something with it. So I do think that unfortunately lost her the lip sync. But Suzie also did do an amazing job and she continued that being very kind of intense there, but also having fun, which I really enjoyed. So I would say that Suzie did definitely win this lip sync. And perhaps unsurprisingly, Suzie was announced as the winner. And in the Have Your Say poll, you voted 94.7% for Suzie and 5.3% for Lucky. And then moving on to a three-way lip sync, and we all love a good three-way. Which was the last lip sync of this round, which was between Lydia, Lana, and Kori to the song 360 by Charlie XCX. Now, I know it's difficult because there's an odd number of queens, so obviously you are going to have a three-way lip sync. Any excuse for a three-way.
Man, you're like a broken record.
I just think there's too much going on screen. You can't focus on which of the queens you're looking at. I don't know. Personally, I find it a little bit distracting. Either have them all lip sync, so it's a gag like they did on season 11 when they just made all of the group lip sync, or just keep it to two. I don't know how you would do that with an odd number, but I didn't go to school for math. You figure it out.
I didn't go to school for math.
But anyway, moving past my issue with this particular threesome, I do think that Kori did win the lip sync. It was actually a pretty decent lip sync. Lydia did well. I thought Lana also did well. But I do think that Kori just had something else. Maybe it was because she was constantly moving. She was really giving her all. Although I don't think she won her first lip sync against Arrietty, I do think she won this lip sync. And Kori is announced as the winner of the lip sync and goes through to the final round. And in the Have Your Say poll, it was actually kind of split. So Kori only got 65.6, which was the majority, but then Lydia got 21.1 and Lana got 13.3. And then we had the final lip sync, which was between Suzie Toot and Kori King to the song Aperture or APT. I don't know how you actually say the name of the song, but however you say it, it's by Rose and Bruno Mars. And no, that's not Rose from season 13. I actually really like this song. I've heard it quite a few times. I remember the first time I had no idea what it was about. Apparently, Aperture is something, I think it's Korean, and it's something to do with going to the apartment, like going to someone's apartment, maybe? Anyway, regardless of that, I really enjoyed this lip sync. It was really fun to see Kori and Suzie interact because they're really good friends out of the show. We've heard that before. And also, Kori has mercilessly teased Suzie online and done what she calls Kori Toot, which is her dressing up as Suzie Toot. And she's done lots of cameos as that, which was really funny. The thing that confused me the most about this was when Kori did her reveal and she sort of unleashed the breasts, but they didn't have nipple tassels or anything, so the nipples were out. And she must have known that, I assume. But then she kind of covered them up weirdly, and it kind of looked like she almost wasn't expecting the nipples to be out, but I assume she must have known that was going to happen. So to me, that kind of lost Kori the lip sync because it just looked a bit awkward, her sort of occasionally holding them and then occasionally not. And yeah, I don't know, that kind of was just a bit of a weird reveal for me. But I do think Suzie did a really good job, and I think throughout the episode, there was kind of this storyline that maybe she deserved it because people had been kind of ragging on her for the entire season, and maybe she was robbed of her top 4 space. But she was also a really good lip syncer, so I do agree that I think Suzie did win this. And Suzie is announced as the winner of the lip sync, which means that she wins the episode. And in the Have Your Say poll, there was actually a bit more of a split than I thought there was going to be. 81.3% voted for Suzie, so still kind of the landslide majority, but 18.7% did vote for Kori. And then the final question in the Have Your Say poll, which was to do with this episode, because it kind of made me think, if we're getting the lip sync Lollapalooza, does that mean we're not getting a reunion? And so I asked, would you rather have a reunion episode or a lip sync SmackDown episode? And you voted, and it was quite split. 52% for a reunion and 48% for the lip sync SmackDown. Now, I kind of go back and forward on this because I do love the reunions. The reunions are sometimes the best episodes because we get all the juicy gossip and the tea and the queens confronting each other and things.
Until the point that I'm not done talking yet. You will speak when I'm done.
Oh, honey.
Girl, security.
Like, for example, do you remember season 9 when they basically all just had a go at each other and they changed Valentina's title from Miss Congeniality to fan favorite? Like, that was iconic television. However, I did see something online and people have talked about this. I do think that, unfortunately, with social media being the way it is and the fact that the queens get so much hate on social media, I do think that maybe those days are behind us. I think the queens nowadays are just very careful about what they say. I think particularly this cast on season 17 have made it obvious that they don't have drama, they don't want to get into drama. So I do think actually if they'd had a reunion, it probably would have been quite boring. One of the biggest contentions we've had on the season was the whole Arrietty mirror message about Anya. And that kind of got resolved within 10 seconds on this episode. And I think that would have happened even on the reunion. So I think it also would have been boring. So I can kind of see why they did a lip sync instead, because maybe they realized it would just not be very interesting to do a reunion. And really, there is no one we can blame other than us, the fan base. Whether or not you or me watching at home, I'm sure we don't send hate to the queens, but there are a very vocal minority who do, and they just obviously can't understand the difference between what's television and what's reality. And I do think that that unfortunately has sort of ruined it a little bit for us, because we're not going to get these shady moments anymore. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think social media is responsible for this type of thing and why the queens are so guarded and therefore why we don't have reunions? Or do you think that the reunions were just kind of boring to begin with? And as I always say in my videos, I like to celebrate the queens. And even if I talk about drama and things, I'm always very careful not to sort of cross the line and talk about personal things or anything that's not publicly available information that, for the most part, the queens themselves have put out there. So yeah, just as a reminder, don't send hate to the queens. It's really not okay. Okay, so let's move on to the comments for this week. And there was a wide variety this week of comments. Starting with my Patreon members, quite a few people mentioned the whole new faces, new hair of some of the contestants, almost like an all-stars glow up. And my Patreon Riot said, new hair, new faces, new twists. This was great fun. Suzie looked so hot this episode. True. I want to know how recent this was filmed because everyone looks so different. And as I confirmed, it was about 2 weeks, according to Naisha at Roscoe's. And a few other people on social media have also said that it was just a few weeks ago. And my Patreon Yael also said something a little bit similar and said, everyone looks so different. And then also said, this might be an unpopular opinion. I didn't think Kori won any lip sync. I was surprised how good Suzie is. That part I agree with. She was incredible. I agree Suzie won, but I do think they picked the fan favorite to be finalists. My Patreon Emmy said, for me, it didn't feel as much of a big event as last season, and I think that's because of the lack of an audience. And my Patreon Stephen had a lot to say this week, but kind of echoed what some other people were saying about Suzie's look being bonkers, and the clown makeup with the classic rock hair was perfection. And Stephen also echoed a little bit what some other people have said about wanting to have a reunion because it's reality TV and a reunion is often the best part of it because we get to see them interact. And then moving on to the comments from my Have Your Say poll, there were a lot of comments basically saying bring back the reunion episode, so kind of the similar thing. Someone said, I love the lip sync Lollapaloozas, it's my favorite challenge, so I guess some people preferred the lip sync Lollapalooza. And someone said, call me greedy, but I would prefer to have both a reunion and a lip sync smackdown. Quite a few people agreed with something that one of my Patreons said, which was that this was slightly underwhelming, especially compared to season 16. I do think it's because of the lack of live audience. To me, that just made it feel a bit flat. I don't know why they didn't do that. But some people said they loved this episode, and there were a lot of people who said, also, Suzie Toot made me feel things, lesbian things. And some people said, I'm glad Suzie proved all the haters wrong because she didn't get to the finale. And a lot of people were just saying they're glad Suzie won because they feel like maybe she was robbed of a top 4 placement. And yeah, in general, it did feel like a nice storyline that Suzie got something after she was eliminated right before the top 4. But I do actually think she was a really good lip syncer in this episode, so she did deserve it outside of the storyline as well. Okay, so we're now going to move on to a little bit of light drama to do with Suzie Toot addressing the comments that Trinity The Tuck has made about her. And Suzie Toot also clarifies how she feels about her supposed feud with Lexi Love. So, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that Trinity The Tuck has made several critical comments about Suzie, saying things like she doesn't vibe with her, and that Suzie puts down her fellow competitors. And Trinity also said that Suzie is the only queen from season 17 that she does not follow on social media. Suzie has vaguely clapped back on Twitter, and in a recent interview, Suzie said that she sent Trinity a t-shirt that says F Suzie Toot on it. However, Suzie has now addressed Trinity's comments, and in an interview on the red carpet for the eliminated queens, an interviewer brought up what Trinity had said about Suzie at Roscoe's, as well as some of the other people who have said mean things about Suzie, and this was Suzie's official response.
Someone was speaking about you at Roscoe's a few weeks ago. Have you heard about that at all? I don't know. It's not come up on my feed, so I'm assuming that I don't follow her.
Oh, well, let me show you. Trinity The Tuck had some words about you at Roscoe's viewing party a few weeks ago. Do you have a response?
My response to Trinity The Tuck Taylor is thank you for being a fan. Thank you for shouting me out, bringing my name wherever you please, because, I need it. I love attention. And I think you're fabulous, and I would never bring you down, baby. Mwah, 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 mwah.
One of the other things Suzie has recently addressed is the supposed feud between her and Lexi Love. Throughout season 17, there has been a storyline that Lexi felt threatened by Suzie because she's strong competition, and Lexi mentioned it several times. This then led to people creating multiple memes making fun of Lexi for being obsessed with Suzie. In fact, a Twitter user has created a montage video with footage of Suzie and Lexi to the song Girl So Confusing by Charlie XCX and Lorde in the background.
Yeah, I don't know if you like me, sometimes I think you might hate me.
And Lexi even retweeted this video. Lexi has also joked about her supposed feud with Suzie, and for example, she posted this video just after Suzie's elimination.
Well, that was stressful. I thought I was going to have a grand mal seizure.
Lexi was also once asked about her feud with Suzie during an interview with Ricky Cornish for Pride, and both she and Suzie joked about it, and it was clear that the two of them are friends.
Suzie, how would you describe your feud with Lexi Love?
I would describe it as appropriate and sane, very grounded in reality. I think that's my favorite part about it.
However, there has also been some backlash against Lexi, with people saying that she was overly mean to Suzie and that she was obsessed with her. For example, a few weeks ago, someone posted a tweet which got quite a lot of traction, which said, "Sorry, this episode plus Untucked has really made me not like Lexi as much now. She is so into her head that her only resort is blaming everyone else for her mistakes." Another example was that on one of Lexi's TikTok videos, someone commented saying, "Suzie deserved your spot," presumably referring to the fact that Suzie got eliminated and didn't make it to top 4. Then, in a recent video, the YouTube channel The Drama posted clips of Suzie from this week's Lollapalooza episode, and the video was titled, "Suzie Toot, You'll Always Be Famous." And in one part of the video, Lexi was screaming for Suzie. Someone commented on the video saying, "Lexi screaming Suzie is all of us during this episode." Someone then replied to this user and said, "That was so performative. She knows that the fans are upset with her. She needs everyone to forgive her in order to get some votes to win, LMAO." Someone else then screenshotted this exchange and posted it onto the RuPaul's Drag Race Reddit page and said, "I beg this fandom to stop trying to write think pieces on people you don't know." Suzie has also made it clear throughout the season that she does not want anyone to send hate to her fellow sisters. But after some of the backlash that Lexi got this episode, Suzie seemingly responded to it by posting a tweet recently which said, "Hey, just so we're all clear, Lexi and I have been friends and continue to be friends. Our beef online is 100% a bit between friends that is fun and silly. If you participate in any kind of public hate for Lexi, you are not a tutor, full stop." But then, in a jokey response, someone replied to Suzie and said, "Okay, what about Kori King? We can still hate her, right?" And Suzie said, "Absolutely, run wild." But it's clear that this was just a joke because Suzie is good friends with both Kori and Lexi. So please remember that this is just a TV show and it's not that serious. So please keep that in mind. And as always, do not send hate to any of the queens. So there you go. There was the Have Your Say video for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 17, Episode 15. Let me know in the comments how excited you are for the Season 17 finale and who do you think is going to take the crown. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my newest Patreon member, Elizabeth Ann, who joined in the You're a Winner Baby tier. Elizabeth Ann, you are definitely a winner, baby. If you'd like to have your comment featured in my Have Your Say poll, as well as a raft of other benefits, such as early access to my videos, access to the exclusive Patreon chat, please make sure you check out my Patreon. It's a quick and affordable way to support my channel if you want to, and it really does make such a huge difference to my channel, and I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description. I'd also like to say thank you to all of my Patreon members. You are all absolutely incredible. I love speaking to you on Patreon. I love the community community I've built. Thank you so much for all of your amazing, wonderful support. It truly does make such a huge difference. So thank you so, so much. As always, please make sure you like and comment on this video and share it if you like, because it really does help boost the video in the algorithm on YouTube. And please make sure you not only hit, but you smash that subscribe button, because I would love to get to 150k by the end of the year. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me again next week for the final Have Your Say for this season with more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Thank you so much. Bye.